Summary of Just Once, a novel written by Kingsbury. Chapter 1. Ervil Myers sat in the sterile, clinical office of Dr. Edmonds, the air thick with tension as the doctor delivered the devastating news. Alzheimer's, the thief of memories, had found its way to Ervil's mind, unraveling the threads of her identity. Hank, her steadfast husband, sat beside her, his hand tightly entwined with hers as they braced for the impact of the words that echoed through the room. Red was the last color, the very last, Dr. Edmonds stated solemnly, his words hanging in the air like a heavy fog. It was an odd choice of words, but as the narrative unfolded, it became clear that red held a special place in Ervil's memories, perhaps the last to fade. The doctor continued, explaining the cruel fate that awaited Ervil. Her mind, once sharp and brilliant, would splinter and fracture under the relentless burden of Alzheimer's. The love that had bound Ervil and Hank through decades would slip away, forgotten like a distant dream. The doctor painted a picture of Ervil's impending amnesia, describing a future where faces, voices, and the very essence of her life would dissolve into the void. Ervil, her eyes fixed on the doctor, adjusted her sweater nervously, tapping her feet on the floor. The rhythmic tick of the clock on the wall became deafening, a cruel reminder of time slipping away. The doctor's words hung heavy, and the room seemed to close in on them. Her mind would betray her, Dr. Edmonds explained. The name of her son, the smell of her home, the very walls that housed the memories of a lifetime, all would be erased. And yet, in the cruel irony of Alzheimer's, the doctor emphasized that until the very end, Ervil would remember the color red. As the doctor spoke, Ervil's mind raced. The past 4 decades, her years as a spy for the Office of Strategic Services during World War II, seemed destined to vanish into the void. But in the midst of this impending oblivion, red remained, a stubborn beacon refusing to be extinguished. Hank, the sturdy anchor in Ervil's storm, released a guttural sound, a visceral response to the impending loss of the woman he had vowed to love in sickness and in health. He held Ervil's hand with a grip that mirrored the strength of their shared history. How long, he asked, the only question that truly mattered in that moment. Dr. Edmonds, his gaze shifting between the couple, delivered the harsh reality. Ervil's degeneration was happening at a rapid pace, and the timeline for needing full-time care was looming, perhaps within a year, or possibly a mere 6 months. Time, both friend and foe, had become an adversary in their journey. The doctor suggested medications, each with its own set of risks and potential side effects. Sleepiness, dizziness, mood swings, confusion, the laundry list of potential consequences sounded eerily similar to the very symptoms they sought to mitigate. Ervil, her hands folded in her lap, stared at her husband, seeking comfort in the familiar. "Excuse me," Hank interjected, his voice a blend of desperation and determination. "I have a question." The doctor fell silent, giving Hank the floor. "Will the drugs reverse Ervil's symptoms?" A pregnant pause filled the room before Dr. Edmonds delivered the stark truth. There were no drugs that could cure Alzheimer's. No magic elixir to reverse the inexorable march of the disease. The medications might slow the progression, alleviate some symptoms, but guarantees were elusive. The doctor laid bare the stark reality, a personal choice with no certainties, only hope mingled with risk. Hank, the weight of responsibility etched on his face, nodded in acknowledgement. The enormity of the decisions they faced hung in the air. "Do we have to decide now?" he asked, a plea for a moment of respite in the face of an onrushing storm. Dr. Edmonds hesitated, acknowledging the urgency of acting swiftly in the early stages of an Alzheimer's diagnosis. Time, a merciless adversary, was not on their side. Ervil, sitting upright in her chair, felt a surge of resistance. "That's not true," she insisted, her eyes locking onto the doctor's. "Forgetting my keys or putting the milk in the cupboard does not mean I'm struggling to remember." Her gaze shifted to Hank, a hint of tears, betraying the fragility beneath her facade. "I remember everything." The doctor, momentarily perplexed, closed Ervil's file and leaned back in his chair. "We can hold off on the medications. I want you both to be comfortable with your decision." Hank, a beacon of strength in Ervil's tumultuous sea, nodded his gratitude. "Thank you," he said, standing and helping Ervil to her feet. "We'll be in touch." Exiting the office, Ervil paused at the door, seeking confirmation of their car's location. A small, seemingly inconsequential moment that belied the tumult of emotions within. "Our car's to the left, yes?" she asked. Hank, his arm around her, corrected her gently. "Actually, it's to the right. It's a confusing building." Confusion, a harbinger of the battles to come, seemed to lurk around every corner. They walked down the hallway, Hank providing physical support and reassurance. The external world, a maze of uncertainty, mirrored the internal turmoil. Ervil, clinging to Hank's proximity, pondered the profound shifts awaiting her. The car, a familiar refuge, offered a temporary sanctuary from the storm of emotions. As they reached their blue Ford Escort, reality settled in. Hank opened the door for her, a small gesture laden with unspoken love and concern. Once inside, Ervil witnessed the toll of their reality on Hank's face. Tears streamed down his cheeks, a silent testament to the pain he bore in witnessing the erosion of the woman he loved. He swiped at the tears with the back of his hand, offering a shaky smile. "It'll be okay." The repetition of those words, a mantra woven through the fabric of their lives, provided a fragile anchor in the tempest. Ervil, unable to bear the sight of Hank's vulnerability, averted her gaze to the passing landscape. The trees adorned in brilliant oranges and reds. A vivid display of nature's seasonal transition. Red, the last color, echoed in her mind, a stark contrast to the fading hues of her memories. A sudden realization struck her: she could remember, not just the small details like the car's location, but the substantial ones that comprised the tapestry of her life. A flashback ensued, a trip to 6th grade when Hank became her friend, a memory vivid and alive against the backdrop of her deteriorating present. Spring, 1931, unfolded in her mind. Ervil, 12 years old, and Hank, her neighbor, shared a daily walk home. On that fateful April afternoon, they deviated from their usual path, drawn to the rushing creek against parental warnings. The innocence of childhood rebellion prevailed, and they embarked on an adventure that would etch a memory indelible in Ervil's consciousness. Their conversation, trivial yet laden with the weight of adolescence, meandered through crushes, favorite books, and dreams of the future. Hank, the stalwart companion, accompanied Ervil along the creek. A misstep, a fall, and Ervil found herself submerged in the cold water, her life hanging in the balance. In the grip of panic, Hank, with calm certainty, rescued her from the turbulent current. The shivering aftermath, the shared vulnerability, became a cornerstone in their shared history. Ervil's gratitude transformed into a nightly ritual of prayers for Hank's well-being, a testament to the depth of their bond. Hank's promise, uttered with boyish determination, lingered in the air, like a vow. "You wait and see," he declared, "when we grow up, I'm going to marry you, Ervil and Holland." The narrative shifted back to the present as Ervil blinked away the memories. Hank steered the car into the driveway of the home where they had spent 4 decades building a life together. As the engine hummed to a stop, Hank, always the reassuring presence, reached for her hand. "I remember, Hank." "I still remember," Ervil affirmed, her voice a mix of certainty and vulnerability. He nodded, his eyes expressing both understanding and grief. "I know." Leaning close, he kissed her cheek, the gesture a balm for wounds yet to fully surface. The words he repeated, like a mantra, echoed in the confined space of the car. "It'll be okay." In those moments, Hank encapsulated the essence of their enduring love, a love that had weathered the storms of war, loss, and heartbreak. Ervil, despite the encroaching darkness of Alzheimer's, found solace in the warmth of Hank's affection. The narrative, like a delicate dance between past and present, explored the intricacies of love in the face of an unrelenting adversary. The story, a tapestry woven with threads of nostalgia, poignant moments, and the unwavering commitment between Ervil and Hank, encapsulated the fragility of memory and the resilience of the human spirit. As they stepped out of the car, the weight of the diagnosis lingered, but so did the profound connection between Ervil and Hank. The home, witness to decades of shared laughter and tears, stood as a silent testament to a love that transcended the boundaries of time and memory. In the closing moments of the day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of red and orange across the sky, Ervil found solace in the enduring embrace of her partner. The journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges, but in the warmth of Hank's presence, she glimpsed a flicker of hope, a promise that, in the face of Alzheimer's relentless advance, their love would remain an unwavering beacon in the encroaching darkness.